Youth and Early Learning Committee will come to order on January 20th. I'm glad that the committee staff and leadership of the committee got the memo about gray and black for our wardrobe today. Thank you. This is executive session for today. We have two bills that we will be voting on today, House Bill 1098 and House Bill 1045. And before we get going, I do just want to remind our viewers that this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on TVW. And we do have some participants who are in the room, as you can see, and who are on Zoom. And for remote members, if you wish to ask a question, please raise your hand using the raise hand feature. And as always, wait for the chair, if you're in the room or on Zoom, for the chair to call you. If you put on your microphone, the camera will get confused if you're not speaking but making noise, and will show you. So please just focus in on turning off your microphone if you're not called on. And we will go from there. So let's have some briefings on amendments. We have just a few. Let's start with House Bill 1098. Luke.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee, Luke Wickham and committee staff. As the committee recalls, House Bill 1098 is the bill that extends the mandated reporting requirement of child abuse and neglect to members of the clergy. Wickham 548, the First Amendment, sponsored by Representative Taylor, adds a person who is an elder to the definition of member of the clergy. The Second Amendment, Wickham 547, also sponsored by Representative Taylor, removes the exception to the mandated reporting requirement for members of the clergy for confessions. So information provided to a member of the clergy as part of a confession would also be subject to the mandated reporting requirement.
Thank you. And Luke, I know we dug a little bit down into this issue. Can you please explain the confession, penitent, whatever the phrase is, and that's used in court or not?
There is, in state statute, there's a clergy penitent privilege that protects any information provided to a clergy member as part of a confession from being introduced in a court of law. So any statements made cannot be compelled when someone is in a court of law. So if someone's being prosecuted, for example, a member of the clergy could not be required to testify as to statements that were made by someone during a confession. The bill before you requires that clergy report child abuse and neglect, but not require that that person produce statements during a court hearing.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Any other questions for staff? Okay, moving on to House. We'll come back to order for our executive session. And first executive session of session. So just hopefully this will all go smoothly. So the first bill up is House Bill 1098. Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that House Bill 1098 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It has been moved and seconded that House Bill 1098 be moved out of committee with a due pass recommendation. There are amendments. Madam Vice Chair, to move the amendment.
Sorry.
I know, right? Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that Wickham 548 be passed.
It has been moved and seconded to introduce amendment Wickham 548. Remarks, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's the morning. This amendment seeks to be more inclusive of the folks who are involved in church activities, and we want to make sure that all officials are covered under this statute.
Thank you. Additional remarks? Representative Eslick.
Yes, thanks. Thank you, Chair Sen. And we do like this amendment. We think that does include who we need to have included, so that's where we're going to be. Thanks.
Great. All those in favor of Wickham 548, please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The amendment carries. There are additional amendments. Representative Taylor, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chairson. I move that Wickham 547 be adopted.
It has been moved and seconded that Wickham 547 be adopted. Remarks, Madam Vice Chair.
In researching the states that have the clergy penitent exception, we discovered that in both conservative states and progressive states that that exception does not exist, and that I think where we are with this is that these communities really want to protect children, but also protect the nature of the First Amendment by also protecting the privilege at the time of court hearing. So you're protecting children by being able to report. You can report anonymously if you're a mandatory reporter, but not be required to go to court. So we wanted to remove the privilege so that we can continue to protect the children, but also protect the First Amendment rights.
Additional remarks?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Representative Eslick.
Thank you. So we do not agree with this amendment. I was personally raised as a Catholic, and I understand the privilege that the priest has in confession, and we're really worried if we open this door that it will be a detriment to all the family. But we certainly understand that that the clergy does have, and the priests do have, the availability to counsel them outside of confession to be able to get to the point that they need to make, because we do understand the importance of how awful this child abuse issue is. So will be a no.
Additional remarks? Representative Dent.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm as passionate as anybody about these children, and child abuse of any kind, it just kind of gets me moving in the wrong way. I'm just we need to deal with this. It's a major issue in our society, but I'm concerned with this amendment because we're opening the door that they, as the ranking member just said. We're saying that, okay, so we're going into a confidential setting, which is, you know, a confession with clergy, but it's only kind of confidential. And we lose the confidentiality, and then, well, there are other things going on in this world too. And so an individual then doesn't go to confession because, well, it's only kind of confidential. And I think it has to be either confidential or not. And I understand the intent of this. I appreciate the gentlelady for bringing the amendment forward. I do. I'm just concerned that we're creating a problem by what we think we're fixing a problem. And I think that there may be another way to take a look at this in the future that can achieve the same results without compromising confessions. So I will be a no on this today. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any additional remarks? Representative Rule.
Thoughtfully, I support this amendment. And the reason I'm supportive of this amendment is because I'm thinking about a situation that I was in at one point as a church leader. And it was a really hard situation because we were those trusted church leaders that people were looking to navigate a situation that was really tricky, particularly because we had questions about child abuse, and we weren't sure how to handle it as church leaders. Now, I'm also a licensed therapist, and that's a different role. And so I had to think about what are my mandates. As a licensed therapist in that role, my mandate would have been to report suspected abuse, but I wasn't working as a therapist. I was working as a church volunteer. So that mandate wasn't there, but what was concerning to me in that scenario was that gathered around a table with other church leaders, we heard the message from our elders that we needed to circle the wagons, not to report the abuse. And the trouble is, that kind of message hides abuse, and it doesn't get children the help that they need. So I don't think this is an easy question, but for me, I think the right answer is to support this amendment. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Additional remarks? Seeing none, let's do all those in favor of the amendment, please indicate by saying aye. One moment, I'm going to make sure that our, okay. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay? Nay. The amendment carries. Mr. Yes, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that the adopted amendments be incorporated into substitute House Bill 1098, and that substitute House Bill 1098 be reported out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
It's been moved and seconded that substitute House Bill 1098 be reported out of committee due pass. Is there discussion? Remarks on final passage, Representative Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I recommend that that this committee pass this bill out of committee, essentially to protect children. One of the last places where we want folks to go and essentially be protected needs to have the same standards that other folks have in our community. And it's not to say that we don't respect religion, we don't respect the place that the church and other places of worship have in our community in what they're doing. I think it's a strength overdone sometimes. And we can make sure that we change the standards in the community so we know where all the protected people, protected individuals, the protected children can go to get help, to truly get help, and know that they can be safe. And this is a really important bill to ensure that we're all part of the solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional remarks? Representative Walsh.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm recommending a no vote on House Bill 1098. The Washington State Constitution speaks to freedom of conscience. And this is a critical and essential and foundational freedom for the people of this state. The notion of freedom of conscience goes beyond just the limits of religion and religious practices. It gets to the nature of an individual's own moral and ethical system. And what the state constitution says is that freedom of conscience shall not be interfered with by state policy. This is a powerful protection for all people. Clearly, we want to protect young children, and we want abuse of children to be brought to public scrutiny as best it can be. And we have mandated reporters throughout our system of government and of education and of social interactions of all sorts. But religion and freedom of conscience must not only be respected, it must be recognized as foundational to the notion of what a civil society is. The unintended consequence that could come from this policy is a chilling effect on the notion of conscience and of confession, and that confession itself can be a purgative process. I know that many clergy as part of the confessional process, whatever the specific religion is, encourage the confessor to make right in their own life wrongs they've done without violating the confidence of the confessional process. And that can be the healthiest response to an unhealthy or abusive situation. Because 1098 undermines the freedom of conscience that is protected by the state constitution, I believe we must be a no vote. Thank you.
Additional remarks, Representative Eslick?
Thank you, Chair Sand. So the bottom line is we really liked the bill in its original form and the one amendment. It's the second one that we are having trouble with. So we will be a no on this side. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Can we please have the form for voting? And staff will please call the roll.
Sen.
Sen votes aye.
Representative Sen votes aye. Cortez.
Cortez votes aye.
Representative Cortez votes aye. Taylor.
Taylor votes aye.
Representative Taylor votes aye. Eslick.
Eslick votes nay.
Representative Eslick votes nay. Couture.
Couture votes nay.
Representative Couture votes nay. Collin.
Callan votes aye.
Representative Collin votes aye. Dent.
Dent votes nay.
Representative Dent votes nay. Goodman.
Representative Goodman votes aye.
Representative Goodman votes aye. Ortiz Self.
Ortiz Self votes aye.
Representative Ortiz Self votes aye. Rule.
Rule votes aye.
Representative Rule votes aye. Walsh.
Walsh votes nay.
Representative Walsh votes nay.
Thank you. And seeing the vote on the screen, would anybody like to change their vote? And just do want to highlight that this year, like in the past couple years, we have two options: nay, do not pass, and nay without recommendation. Just encourage folks to look at their vote, and if there are any changes you want to make, to please raise your hand. Representative Dent.
Dent would be nay, do not pass.
Any additional changes? Seeing none, will the clerk please? Okay, Representative Walsh. Okay, so Walsh, do not pass. Any other changes?
I agree that we should just confirm for Representative Eslick and Couture that your votes are nay, do not pass.
Do not pass.
Thank you.
Representative Eslick, do not pass? Okay, so now seeing your vote, will the clerk please report the tally?
Madam Chair, there are 7 ayes, 4 nays, and 0 excused votes.
By your vote, substitute House Bill 1098 is voted out of committee. And thank you, we're all getting used to this. So I think the default moving forward will be do not pass. And then, so if you say nay, it will be automatically do not pass moving forward. If you'd like nay without recommendation, please say that. Thank you. And we will move on